Hey, welcome back for another episode of the Prize Podcast where we talk about how sports and the Christian worldview intersect one another. I'm Kyle Hunsinger. It's good to have you on the show today. The topic of today is what is unlikely? What is unlikely? Man, there were some things that were unlikely that happened in sports this week, according to Yahoo Sports and many of the sports world from yesterday. Um, Aaron Judge. So I'm going to give you some baseball news. Aaron Judge is the fastest to get to 300 home runs. Give you a little bit of stats. I'll kind of help you out in this. I've got my little stat sheet right here. Um, in the stats, Aaron Judge, he started in 2016, was the rookie of the year, and he had 954 games, and he did that in 954 games with 300 home runs. Incredible. The next closest that was fastest was Ralph Kiner. He did it in 1,087 games. So literally in 100 less, 100 less, little under or little over 100 less. That's how much Aaron Judge has been so hot with the bat. Now, a lot of things have changed since then. You can make all kinds of comparisons, whatever. But incredible, and how highly unlikely that would seem to where someone could do that. But yet, man, Aaron Judge has got a gifting, man. He's a great player, and it's really cool to see something like that happen to where uh, you're able to see some cool things like that seem unlikely of 300 home runs in that less amount of time. Um, One of the most cool things that I saw this past week was watching the USA basketball team win. Now, the unlikely one that was close was women's basketball. I mean, that was a 1 point win. But man, USA women's basketball pulled it out. They showed that they persevered, um, and they have such good talent. And supposedly, I heard through a article or saw through an article that there was 7.8 million viewers for that game. That's a lot. So I think that's incredible. Another good thing for women's game, especially for that sport. Man, it is blowing up WNBA, and especially seeing the Olympics of how well the Olympic team did. And think about it this way: the WNBA All Stars beat that Olympic team, and that Olympic team won the gold medal. Crazy! They beat France. France and Victor Wembanyama have to go or went um, to their home, and they played USA basketball, and USA basketball did it. Man, they did it, and got to give it a hand to you. It seems sometimes with that when you put that many good players on team, it can almost seem unlikely for a team to mesh together real well. The thing that was very much set in stone was I think everyone had predicted they were going to win the whole thing because let's just face it, USA was just better than everybody else. I mean, your starting five, which at one point in the starting or in the lineup, I don't know if this was the starting lineup. I know starting lineup at one point it was Devin Booker, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and then there was one other person. But then at some point in the game, they had Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Devin Booker. Which Devin Booker, good grief, the dude was doing fantastic. Great play by him. And then you had basically had a toss up between Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis, just playing really good. Anthony Davis looked way better this time around in his gameplay. But man, the two storied figures of the whole entire thing, LeBron James and Steph Curry. Steph Curry was the one that was the most magnificent in the sense that he wowed people. 4 straight 3 pointers. Man, and just one of them he did a 3 pointer over two guys. Seemed impossible. Two of his teammates are open, and he still takes a shot and he makes it. I mean, the dude could not miss. That might have been one of his best games he's ever played as a basketball player. Period. Uh, LeBron, even with the gray and everything else going on, and getting older, still 39 years old, which is not old, but in NBA years, it's ancient. The dude's he's still killing it. I mean, again, I'm not a ginormous LeBron James fan, but man, you got to give credit where credit's due. Kevin Durant doing his thing. And you really have to think to yourself, is this the last great Olympic team? They've won this many straight. I think it's like 5 straight they've won, 5 or 6 straight. I can't remember between women's and men's, but man, it seemed so. And some people could argue it was unlikely because how it'd be really difficult for all these good players to get together, mesh together really well, and also too with the international play being so good. Uh, International context of NBA or in basketball in general is just getting better. Uh, and France still played them pretty tough. So that could even be argued as an unlikely story of seeing Victor Wembanyama and that crew with Nick Batum and some of the other dudes that just showed out. Um, but USA gets the gold. I think that's a really cool story. I think it's really good to hear all those different things about USA basketball, how well they're doing, the victory that they got. Overall, just a really, really good time. Um, One of the things that we're always going to know about this team is you will know them by the victory. You'll know them by them delivering on their promise of a gold medal. Well, we've got something better than a gold medal. We've got something better than the victory that a basketball game can give us. It's the unlikely but yet certain victory of God delivering his people. And again, we see this in the book of Exodus where God says, all right, now you're at your lowest, or you were at your highest, now you're at your lowest. You've been 400 years of slavery. Moses, you tried to go do this. You failed. I told you it was going to happen. I told you that he was going to harden his heart, that Pharaoh was going to harden his heart to the message. Let me show you my power. Let me show you my strong hand, my strong arm. So God in our weakness shows his strength. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to show that. He's going to show that. And it says, what's really cool about this passage in Exodus 6 and how it applies to us today about the theme of unlikely. God showed himself as God Almighty, El Shaddai, who it talks about in Exodus 6, to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, God of Jacob. So Abraham, Isaac, Jacob made promise to them. Offspring kept his promise. Now, he did tell Abraham, you will have generations that will be enslaved in the wilderness. They will go through the wilderness. He makes all these different things and says this stuff. It happens. In the midst of all this, the heartache, the doubt, the barriers that I talked about in a previous podcast, God shows up big time. And he says, they knew me as God Almighty, but you are going to know me as Yahweh, the Lord. And then he says, I'm the Lord, and he gives all these different things of rescue, of redemption. I'll bring you out. I'm going to bring you in. All about rescue. See, God shows himself to us through rescue. We don't have to limit him or put him in a box like I've talked about the past couple weeks. God is inexhaustible in his power. He do whatever he wants to do for his glory and for his praise. And that's exactly what he did through the personal work of Jesus Christ. The most unlikely circumstance for a guy, but he wasn't just a guy, fully man, fully God, to overcome the grave. And man, to die on the cross for our sin, to be our atonement. To see all of that. And then, on top of that, he uses people that were unlikely, disciples. Not strong, not the best, but he uses them. And so God always is doing that, and God's still doing it today. He's still showing his power to rescue, and that's how he shows himself more and more that he is the Lord, I am. We know God and relationship with God through rescue. And personally, we as Christians know that because he's rescued us, even though it seemed unlikely. In our sin, it seemed unlikely, but God made it happen. Thank you for joining in the Prize Podcast, where we talk about how sports and the Christian worldview intersect one another. If you would like to know more information about me, or you just want to have any questions, pursuetheprize@gmail.com, or you can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at KMoneyDH. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show again, once again, for the Prize Podcast. We'll see you next week for more episodes. Don't go away, and make sure you follow so that we can talk about it. Make sure you like this. And then again, we'll see you next week. Take care.